Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It's time for more Lara's Shadow. Now, our primary job for this part is going to be to get the healing chamber connected and working, and therefore to save Natla. Not that I really want to, but obviously we are under her command because of Arkeshiva. And really this is where we're going to be spending most of our time, because not only are we going to see it here, we're also going to see it later on when we have to return. And I suppose that now is as good a time as any to start up with that whole ethical conundrum that I was talking about at the end of the last part, with the whole creating things that have sentience. I mean, it goes very much into the whole thing of artificial intelligence, because this is where that debate is most common. Also, I suppose, in genetic engineering of animals and humans as well, because it's like, and it's also to do with and experimentation on animals and all of that. It's just like, by what do we gauge humanity and feeling pain, and is sentience a way of seeing that? Because obviously there's the I think therefore I am, which I think is Descartes? Yes. So there's that whole thing of cognition, which suggests a level of humanity. So it's just like, if something can think, is it human? Obviously that's a slightly flawed way of looking at things, but what happens when you create something that can think just as well as we can? Is that sort of a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Do you have to consider humanity having to deal with what you've created if it's potentially going to try and kill you? If you aren't happy with it, do you really have the right to destroy it? Because if it can think, then surely it should be allowed to be its own being. And yeah, it's something that comes up so much in science fiction, or at least in so much of the science fiction I've read it. I'm pretty sure it does generally, but like Isaac Asimov's robot series, specifically iRobot, and also just, I think also don't think the Foundation trilogy quite as much, but his laws of robotics that he created is very much interested in that. And also there's the Matrix, because if you see the Animatrix, which goes into a lot of the backstory and other narratives within the Matrix universe, that also deals quite strongly with, well, it deals with the start of the war with the machines. And that all begins because, obviously, humanity created robots which could think. And then there's a whole court thing where a robot kills a human, and then that whole debate comes up, and then humanity gets scared. Because there's something that's distinctly not human, because it's not created how most people see humans as being created. And then you get prejudice, and there's also the whole ethical thing of, is it right to bring creatures like this into the world? Either robots that can think, or doppelgangers. Obviously, Natla is an absolute evil cow, and will do anything to kill everything. So, she really doesn't have any qualms about just creating a doppelganger for the sole purpose of killing Lara Croft, and just to make things worse, make her look identical to Lara Croft. Obviously, there are slight differences, because, I mean, the hair, the fact that it's bright red. Although it isn't in, like, the CGI cutscene at the beginning of the game. In that, it's much more like Lara's normal hair, and it's got the loose ponytail rather than the braided ponytail. I don't quite know what they were thinking. But yeah, Natla's not the type of woman to care about what happens to these things, because they are just tools for her to use. But what I do find really awesome is that it's something that's going to happen at the end of this part. So it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler that it's going to happen. I mean, you already really saw it at the end. Beneath the Ashes. But this entire DLC revolves around what would you do if you were a slave controlled, well, like a doppelganger created to serve someone that you don't really want to serve, and you didn't really want to be created necessarily. It's like, well, what do you do? Obviously, that's perhaps giving writers slightly too much credit, because the game never explicitly, well, I mean, sort of explicitly deals with it, but it's just sort of a very quickly dealt with thing. And really, you are spending most of the time in gameplay. As with Beneath the Ashes, but there are more cutscenes. And quite a lot more, actually, because you had the first one, you had rescuing Natla. We're gonna have the one towards the end of this part. Well, no, we're gonna have one as soon as we've kind of sorted all this stuff out. Then we're gonna have one towards the end of the part. There's obviously the last cutscene. Can't remember whether there's any more. But either way, yeah, it's an interesting discussion to have. And I mean, it's a very important one for scientists and so on to have. Like, I mean, it's gonna continue going on and on and on until either somebody truly creates artificial intelligence and then we have to deal with it, or someone creates a doppelganger and then we have to deal with it, or it's just gonna be continually discussed, really. But either way, we've got the healing machine working. And obviously our orders were, once that was done, to return to Natla. So, yes, and we have to because she commanded us, god damn her. Now, as you can see, I have certainly gotten into the swing of using the guns. Really, this game's combat is at its best when you're using the guns, because God knows the melee combat's clunky. But it is slightly frustrating that the doppelganger's gun technique is a little bit slow, so you do need the shadow power sometimes to get it going a little bit more. Now, I think... don't quite quote me on this. That... well... the other time trial achievement is pretty much this corridor run, but it isn't a thing until towards the end when we have to return to it. Because it's going the other way. Well, no, it... oh, God, I can't even remember anymore. But either way, it's certainly a lot more challenging to go through this thing when everything's moving. Because obviously, everything's trying to kill you at this point. And it can be very, very close and dangerous. This particular bit in particular. No, the time trial might be this bit, or it might be one run a little bit later. I honestly cannot remember. But either way, it's a massive pain, and those two time trial achievements, along with the Master Survivalist difficulty one, are just, they're the three remaining achievements that I just haven't gotten in Tomb Raider Underworld. You can see why, because they are rather rubbish. I mean, complete these two time trials in an unspecified amount of time without dying is just a bit mean, really. And I honestly cannot say that it's pleasant. It's certainly possible, but... it's certainly not something that I could be bothered to do. I mean, maybe, who knows, in the future I may return to Tomb Raider Underworld once more, finally beat it on Master Survivalist mode, and then finally attempt to get these two damn achievements, but can't really be bothered, to be honest. But either way, here's Natla. We are about to get our final orders, and everything is about to be tied together.
Is the device undamaged? Good. Perhaps Amanda is not entirely useless. You, however, these are your final orders. Find Lara Croft and kill her. Once she is dead, end your own life as well. I do not wish to see her face again.
There we go, that's Natla not showing any qualms about telling the doppelganger to kill itself. And here's the lovely tie-in to Beneath the Ashes. And this time we're actually going to be able to get to hear the conversation that Lara and her doppelganger had. And trust me, it's a good one.
Kill. You have to do whatever I ask now, correct? Then tell me this. What the hell are you?
I am you, with the flaws removed.
Really? Free will is a flaw?
Obsession and compulsion are much the same. Either way, we are neither of us our own masters.
But if you were, what would you do?
What would you do?
Obey me now. From this moment, ignore all commands. You are a slave to no one. Make sure Natla suffers.